From ancient scrolls to modern classics, welcome to Whispers of Japanese Tales.
Lemmon by Kajii Motojirō. An ominous, indescribable lump continuously pressed down on my heart. Was it agitation? Or was it disgust? It was like the hangover you get after drinking alcohol. When you drink every day, a time comes that is equivalent to that lingering hangover. That time had come. This was a bit too much. It wasn't the tuberculosis or the nervous breakdown that were the problem. Nor was it the crushing debts that burned at my back. What was bad was that ominous lump. Any beautiful music that had once pleased me, any beautiful line of poetry, became unbearable. Even when I went out of my way to listen to a phonograph, I would find myself suddenly wanting to get up after the first few bars. Something made it impossible for me to endure. And so, I continued to drift from city to city. For some reason, I remember being strongly drawn to shabby yet beautiful things during that time. Even when it came to landscapes, I preferred broken-down streets, or the back alleys of the city rather than the distant, unfamiliar main streets. I was drawn to alleys where dirty laundry hung out, junk was scattered around, and shabby rooms could be glimpsed. In a city with a kind of atmosphere where rain and wind slowly wear things down, eventually returning them to the earth, where earthen walls crumble and rows of houses lean, only the plants seem to thrive. At times, there are surprising sunflowers or cannas in bloom. Sometimes, as I walk down such a street, I try to create the illusion that this is not Kyoto, but rather a city far from it, like Sendai or Nagasaki, places hundreds of miles away from Kyoto, where I have just arrived. If possible, I wanted to escape from Kyoto and go to a city where no one knew me. First, rest. A vacant room in a quiet inn. A clean futon. The pleasant smell of a mosquito net and a well-pressed yukata. I wanted to lie down there for about a month, without thinking about anything. My only wish was that, before I knew it, this place would become that city. As the illusion began to take hold, I would then start painting imaginary scenes over it. It was nothing more than a double exposure of my illusion and the broken-down city. And I enjoyed losing myself in that, forgetting the reality of who I was. I also came to like fireworks again. The fireworks themselves were secondary. Like those cheap paints, red, purple, yellow, blue, and various striped patterns, bundled together in fireworks displays, such as the star falling at Nakayama Temple, the flower battle, and the withered pampas grass. Then there were the mouse fireworks, each forming a ring and packed in a box. Such things strangely stirred my heart. Then, I began to like glass marbles made of colored glass, with designs of sea bream and flowers. I also came to like the small Chinese balls. It was an indescribable pleasure for me to lick them. What could be as faint and cool as the taste of that glass? When I was young, I often put them in my mouth and was scolded by my parents, but perhaps it was the sweet memories of my childhood that resurfaced in me, now that I had grown and become a little lost. That taste, indeed, carried with it a faint, refreshing, almost poetic beauty. As you can probably guess, I had no money at all. However, in order to comfort myself for even the slightest stirrings of my heart when I saw such things, a bit of luxury was necessary. Things that cost 2 or 3 cents, luxurious items. Beautiful things, that seemed to allure my lifeless senses. Such things naturally comforted me. Before life had begun to wear me down, one of my favorite places was, for example, Maruzen. There, I would find bottles of red and yellow cologne or eau de cologne. Charming cut glasswork and elegant Rococo-style perfume bottles with amber or jade-colored patterns. A pipe, a small knife, soap, tobacco. I would sometimes spend nearly an hour just looking at such things. And in the end, I would indulge in a small luxury, like buying a fine pencil. However, by that time, this place had become nothing more than a burdensome one for me. Books, students, the cashier, these all appeared to me like the ghosts of debt collectors. One morning, at that time, I was living from one friend's boarding house to another, moving between friends of A and friends of B. I was left all alone in the emptiness after my friend had gone off to school. Once again, I had to wander away from there. Something was driving me on. And so, from city to city, I walked through the back alleys I mentioned earlier, stopped in front of penny candy shops, gazed at dried shrimp, dried cod, and yuba in dry goods stores. Eventually, I descended along Teramachi Street toward the Nijo area, where I paused at a fruit shop. I would like to briefly introduce this fruit shop, for it was the one I liked most within the range of my experience. It was by no means a grand shop, but the unique beauty of a fruit shop was felt most clearly there. The fruit was arranged on a steeply sloped stand, which I believe was made of an old black lacquered board. It was as if a lively, beautiful piece of music, an allegro, flowed through the scene, and the fruit was arranged in such a way that it seemed to have been transformed into stone, as if confronted by the Gorgon's terrifying mask, solidified in those colors and volumes. Even the vegetables, as you moved further back, were piled up higher and higher. Indeed, the beauty of the carrot greens there was remarkable. Then there were the beans soaked in water, and the water chestnuts. What was beautiful about that shop, though, was the night. Teramachi Street was generally a lively one, though the atmosphere felt much clearer than in Tokyo or Osaka, and the lights from the display windows spilled abundantly out into the street. For some reason, however, only around the shop front was strangely dark. Originally, one side of the shop faced the dark Nijo Street corner, so the darkness was natural. However, it was unclear why the neighboring house, which faced Teramachi Street, was also dark. Yet, if that house had not been dark, I don't think it would have been so captivating to me. Another feature was the shop's eaves, which hung deeply like the brim of a hat. This was not just a metaphor, but more like, oh look, that shop has a brim of a hat hanging unusually low, to the point where it made you think so. Because of this, the area above the eaves was also completely dark. With the surroundings so dark, the several lights placed in front of the shop shone down like a sudden downpour, casting their brilliant, dazzling light without being overshadowed by anything around them, creating a beautiful view all on its own. Standing in the street, where the bare light bulbs pierced my eyes like thin, spiraled rods, I gazed at the view of the fruit shop through the glass windows of a locksmith's second floor nearby. That view of the fruit shop, with its unique lighting, was one of the rare moments that truly stirred me, even among the streets of Teramachi. That day, I bought something from the shop more than usual. The reason was that they had a rare lemon on display. Lemons are, of course, quite common. However, the shop, though not shabby, was merely an ordinary greengrocer, so I hadn't seen such lemons there before. I truly liked those lemons. The simple color, like lemon yellow paint squeezed from a tube and solidified, and that compact, spindle-shaped form. In the end, I decided to buy just one. Afterward, I'm not sure where or how I walked. I wandered the streets for a long time. From the moment I held that lemon, the ominous lump that had been pressing down on my heart seemed to loosen a little, and I felt very happy in the streets. The persistent melancholy that had been so stubborn was distracted by such a small thing, a single lemon. Perhaps this was an ironic truth. Even so, how mysterious the heart is. The coldness of that lemon was indescribably pleasant. At that time, I was suffering from a severe case of tuberculosis, and I always had a fever. In fact, I would sometimes try to show off my fever to my friends by shaking hands, but my palms were hotter than anyone else's. Perhaps it was because of that heat, but the coldness that seemed to seep through my palm and into my body was a pleasant sensation. I brought the fruit to my nose again and again, inhaling its scent. The imagined origin of the lemon, California, came to mind. The phrase hit the nose from the Chinese text I had studied, the seller of oranges, floated in my mind in fragments, and as I deeply inhaled the fragrant air, a warmth of blood rose in my body and face, something I had never truly felt before with a full breath. It was as if a new vitality was awakening within me. In fact, I found it strange that such simple sensations, cold, touch, smell, and sight, felt so fitting to me, as if I had been searching for them all along. It almost felt like that was what I had been seeking for a long time, such was the nature of that period. With a light, excited step, I walked through the streets, even feeling a sense of pride, while imagining a poet in aesthetic attire, striding through the town. I tried placing it on a dirty towel, then on my cloak, measuring how the color reflected off each surface, and thought about such things. In the end, it was this weight. This weight was what I had been searching for all along, and without a doubt, it was the weight of all things good, all things beautiful, converted into weight. I even thought, with a touch of arrogant irony, about such ridiculous notions. But, what mattered was that I was happy. I'm not sure where or how I walked, but when I stopped, it was in front of Maruzen. Normally, I would have avoided Maruzen, but at that moment, it felt as though I could easily enter. I'll go in today, I thought, and walked right in. But what happened? The happy feelings that had filled my heart slowly began to fade. Neither the perfume bottles nor the pipes seemed to weigh on my heart any longer. Melancholy began to envelop me, and I thought it was simply the fatigue from walking around. I went to the shelf with the picture books. Even taking out the heavy art books felt like it required more effort than usual. But still, I pulled them out one by one and opened them, though the desire to immerse myself in them didn't come. To make matters worse, I would then pull out the next book. It was the same with that one. Yet, I couldn't help but feel compelled to scatter them around and look through them all. I couldn't bear it any longer and left them there. I couldn't even return them to their original places. I repeated this many times. Finally, I placed even the heavy book of Angoulême's Orange Color, a book I had always loved, down as well, because it had become even more unbearable. What a cursed thing this was! Fatigue lingered in the muscles of my hands. I fell into a melancholy, staring at the pile of books I had pulled out and left stacked there. What had happened to the picture books that once so captivated me? After exposing my eyes to each page, I would look around at the overly ordinary surroundings, feeling that strange, mismatched sensation, a feeling I had once enjoyed. Oh, that's right. I suddenly remembered the lemon in my sleeve. I thought to myself, I could try the same thing with this lemon, mixing it up with the chaotic colors of the books. Yes. And once again, the light excitement I had felt earlier returned to me. I randomly stacked them up, then hurriedly crushed them, and quickly built them up again. I added new ones, took some away. Each time, the bizarre, fantastical castle turned red or blue. Finally, it was finished. And, while holding back my heart, which wanted to leap, I carefully placed the lemon on top of the castle walls. It turned out perfectly. Looking around, the color of the lemon quietly absorbed the chaotic hues of the surrounding colors, becoming sharp and clear. I felt that the dusty air of Maruzen had a strange tension around the lemon, as if it were isolated from the rest. I watched it for a while. Suddenly, a second idea struck me. The strange plot almost startled me. Leaving it as it was, I would step outside with an expression as if nothing had happened. I felt a strange, ticklish sensation. Should I leave? Yes, I should leave, I thought, and walked out briskly. That odd tickling feeling made me smile as I walked through the streets. I, the strange villain who had planted a golden, terrifying bomb on Maruzen's shelf, thought how amusing it would be if, in just a few minutes, that Maruzen exploded in a grand eruption centered around the art books. I eagerly pursued this thought. Then even that stuffy Maruzen would be reduced to dust. With this in mind, I descended down Kyogoku, where the cinema posters in strange, decorative styles adorned the streets.
Until we meet again, may the stories of Japan inspire your days. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales.